We will give
Very
you
well.
about 2 minutes. Yeah.
I'm very well, thank you, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I think we can start in 2 minutes. And
Of course.
yeah. Andy, hi. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks so
Right.
much for your help organizing the session yesterday or Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah, of course. You're welcome. I hope it was great.
This time around, I believe the new timetable is a little unusual in the sense that we don't finish class at 12 and have the break before the mid like 12:30 time. So I think people, I don't know when classes finish on Thursdays, but now it's all after the hour type of thing. So
yeah.
it's different. Yeah.
Did they change the class times again?
And no, I know that morning classes will start. I don't know when they start and finish. As the time currently, I don't know. But I'm saying that when it used to finish at 12, you will know that students will finish their class, go and have some lunch, and then could maybe join an activity or thereabouts. Yeah. But I'm just saying that the change, I believe, also impacts on students' ability to negotiate what happens between the morning session and afternoon sessions, I believe.
Yeah.
But hey, it doesn't matter. If it's two people, I'm fine. We'll talk.
Sounds
It's
good.
a personal session, so no problem.
Yeah. All right. I think we're going to start now. Thank you everyone for coming. I believe most of you know me, but just to introduce myself, my name is Fatoumata Jaite, and I am the programming coordinator for the Hela Career Center. I also actually have Dean Waddell here as well, who is my current supervisor. And yeah, we are very happy to have you here, Professor Assan. Thank you for honoring our invitation, and thank you to the students who are joining us today. Just to kick off, I think Professor Assan will do a great job of introducing himself, but I wanted to just briefly talk about him. As we know, Professor Assan is, to me, I consider him an expert, I think, in international development and even political economy. And he's had extensive experience as well in the world of research and international development. And as most of you know, he's also the director of the Sustainable International Development Program at HELA. So we are very thrilled and honored to have him here to share his career journey. Feel free to ask questions. You can send me a chat or you can just post them on the chat, and I'll be here to just facilitate that and make sure he's having the questions. So thank you everyone for coming, and I will hand it over to Professor Assan.
Okay, thank you, Fatoumata, Jasmine, and the rest of the team for arranging this wonderful series, and of course for inviting me as well. I'm very pleased that we're able to have such an opportunity to talk for students and faculty to interact, as well as alumni, and have the privilege of learning from each other's experiences, and also be able to at least have the benefit of responding to maybe critical questions or, diverging questions or questions that individuals may have, which could pertain towards their own personal careers, or maybe something broader that they want to decipher. So I find this kind of conversation very illuminating. As a student, I was always interacting with faculty. I didn't know I'll be a faculty in the future, but I was always the one who knock at faculty's door and then ask them questions and ask questions, not bothering them, but ask very important but interesting questions, which they often responded with a lot of joy. So I find it equally exciting that I can do the same for my students and also the community, of given that this involves staff, faculty, and also our wonderful alumni community. So as you mentioned in your synthesis of how the session might run, I will talk briefly about myself in terms of where I was born, grew up, and then my education trajectory, and then also some aspects of my career paths, just so that we can have something to discuss in the context of today's conversation. So I was born in Ghana. Of course, Ghana being a post-colonial country means that we follow various education systems, but particularly being a former British colony, we have a British education structure. And so, which is very different from the American education system, I must say, because our elementary and our early um, years education is quite, consistent with the British system. That's what it has been since independence. So we go through a preschool period. I went to a preschool, and then my siblings there's 5 of us, so I have 4 other siblings, and myself and then my brother are the youngest. I have 3 sisters and then a brother. So we were we were the ones left at home all the time because my sisters were ahead of us and they went to school, of course, earlier than us in age line and structure. So my brother and I went to preschool, and my brother and I seem to have done everything, together. We went to the same preschool. And because my parents, both of them being professional, working middle class parents, were also going to work. In Ghana, work starts at 8 a.m. So kids have to be in school either from between 7 and 7:30 in the morning, you are in school. So normally we leave home by 7 a.m. And there's a funny aspect of it because there's the news. My dad will always put the news on. And so as soon as it's 7 o'clock, the news come on. That's the time you have to leave home. I didn't like that very much because I wanted to hear the news. Every time the news came on, I wanted to hear a bit of the news. But then they'll tell her, hey, it's time to go, it's time to go. And because of safety reasons, ourselves, and then some of the kids, maybe in the neighborhood, will all walk together to school. So they'll say, hey, you missed the other kids, you have to go now. And so on earlier occasions, my siblings, my older sisters will take us, and then they will carry on to their own school. Or as we grew up, we'll work together with other kids. It's important because culturally, that was wonderful. And some of us, the kids who grew up that way, we are still in touch up till now, right? So I just wanted to mention that as we when we mentioned community building in the Hella School and how we foster interactions. And education system in Ghana was such that you write a national exam after your elementary school to determine which high school you get admitted into. And so we do that, and then I went to a all boys high school, boarding high school. So for the next 7 years, I went to an all boys high school. And of course, my brother was with me as well. He followed me the next year. And then you write different exams. In the high school, after the first 5 years, you write what we call the GCSE or GCE O-level exam. And then based on that, it will determine what you do for the next 2 years of your high school, the A-levels, which is different from the US. I'm just trying to distinguish that. So I did that. And then my A-levels, I do physics, chemistry, and biology. And then, of course, there's something they call the general paper. And I enjoyed general paper and loved my sciences in that regard. And then, of course, went to the university, and then I studied agriculture and rural development at my undergraduate studies. All along, as I mentioned earlier, my dad was a very avid consumer of the news, international news and politics, etc. So those were things we would chat about and talk about. At some point, I knew all the names of the presidents of the within the African continent. And I remember the names of all the presidents, the prime ministers, chancellors across Europe, and so you study those things at school. And then when we come home, we'll do our own additional learning because my dad will insist you learn these things. And I realized how much that experience was influencing my interest in terms of issues within the global community, or globalization and how globalized our growing up was in terms of growing up in Ghana, but being so mindful of what was going on around and across the world. And then following that, for completing my undergraduate education, I had the privilege of my then faculty advisor because you are the undergraduate, you write your undergraduate dissertation, you have a supervisor. He had previously studied in the US, so he did his postgraduate studies and PhD inclusive in the US. And so he told me that, oh, no, you shouldn't be celebrating graduating with an undergraduate degree. You should be going further to do more. He said, well, this is peanut. That's exactly what he said. Oh, this is peanut. You have to do more. You have to do more. You have more capable of doing more. You have to do more. And I said, oh, man, this guy is just spoiling the whole excitement, because I was so excited. Oh, gosh, now I'm free at last, because the system of undergraduate education is quite intensive in Ghana, I must say. I can't remember how often I went on holidays, because every vacation there's a program. So you finish the semesters, and then over the summer semester, there's a program for the summer period, and then the fall semester will start. So I probably went home maybe 1 or 2 summer vacation, and then that was it. And so I was looking forward to being free, but then he told me, no, you have to come back. Either you come and study, or you go elsewhere and do your master's. I said, oh gosh. Well, he initially wanted me to do what we call a national service on campus, because in Ghana, upon graduating the university, you do what we call 1 year national service. You serve the government for 1 year. And that could involve the government posting you to any area of the government service. It could be education, it could be environment, it could be forestry, it could be agriculture, it could be anything. So oftentimes they will post about 70% of the graduates to the education department or sector, because that's where teachers and other services were required. So the university didn't have the budget at the time, so I couldn't be appointed as a teaching assistant on campus. So interestingly, I walked into the office of the Hunger Project at the time in their head office in Ghana, and then I said, I wanted to talk to the director. And I said, why do you want to talk to the director? So I want to work here. And he said, oh, the director is gone to New York, so come back in 2 weeks. And I said, okay. So interestingly, I saw the Hunger Project on the news. I was watching the news at home just after completing my I took the bus, and then I went to the office, and then they said, oh, the director has gone to New York. I said, okay, as I said earlier. So I went back after 2 weeks, and then the director was in. I said, well, I hear you came to look for me. I said, yes. And I said, what can I do for you? I said, oh, I would like to work here. He said, okay, go to your campus, bring 3 copies of letters of reference from your faculty, bring me a copy of your dissertation. He gave me a long list of things I should bring. And then that was a Wednesday afternoon. And he said, I want to see you back on Friday. So imagine. So I went home. I told my dad. The next morning on Thursday, I took the bus to campus, which was about 4 hours away from where I lived, the city I lived in. And then went to the faculty offices, knocked at their doors, and said, please, I need a letter of reference, please. I told each of them that I told them the story. And it's okay, come back tomorrow. So Friday morning, I went around, collected the letters, went to the bus terminal, took the bus, another 4 hours straight to Accra, which is where the office is, and then went straight back to the office of the Hunger Project. That's how interesting part through which. So I went and presented the document, and he said, okay, come back on Monday. So he said, okay, you passed the first test. And apparently that was a test. He didn't even read the letters. He didn't open the dissertation. He didn't make any of them. He said, okay, leave them on my desk and then come back on Monday morning. So Monday morning, I went in. I said, okay, come, follow me. And then he said, this is your office. So he showed me an office. That was how I got my first job upon graduating in that regard. And I started working in community development, traveling across the country, working as a project officer. And then the exciting part of that job was that we had an internship program where students from the university who would like to spend some time doing an internship will come over during the summer vacation, and sometimes even during the semester. We'll have some, but mainly during the summer vacation, and then some others chose to work with us for their national service, which is what I talked about earlier. So I did my first year of national service with the Hunger Project, and then I continued in that. I became a permanent staff. So I'll work with students and then teach them how to go around, do all the stakeholder analysis, etc. That's I teach in class today, these days. And then we'll go to the field and conduct various field activities. They'll write a report, they'll share it with me, I'll review their report, I'll give it back to them and all that. So that was a lot of fun. And then I decided to go back to do my master's as my faculty advisor had, because anytime I met him, he would say, hey, when are you starting the master's? So I went for an interview for a master's program, which was then funded by the Sasakawa Global 2000 initiative. The former Prime Minister of Japan, Mr. Sasakawa, had then launched a global food initiative with Jimmy Carter, with the Jimmy Carter Foundation, and then they were funding a series of postgraduate full scholarship programs in Ghana. So I applied to this fellowship, and then they said I qualified, and I needed to attend an interview. So I went to the interview, and then the interview was quite easy as far as what I was concerned, because it was basically what I was doing. I was talking about my work and everything. Then I think a month later, they wrote to me and he said, well, you were the best candidate at the interview in terms of the other candidates we interviewed, but unfortunately, we cannot offer you the scholarship nor admit you into the program because we don't think this is the right fit for you. We feel you should really go into international development. So I said, oh man, in Africa, I mean, for those of you who have lived in Africa, or maybe some developing countries, I said, oh goodness, this is a typical nepotism or they've given the scholarship to somebody. How can I be the best candidate but not offer the place? And I was quite disappointed. So I spoke to my dad, and my dad said, no, don't be disappointed. In the interview, the second half of the letter basically talked about what they feel I should do, because they thought I'm very well qualified, I'm very suited for graduate studies, but then I should consider going to undertake a graduate study either in UK or in Europe or in the US in international development. That is what the letter said, because they feel that is the better field for me. So, okay. So what I did was each day after work, and in Ghana at the time, internet at home was not part of the infrastructure. People have internet at work and then also at the university and other libraries. So fortunately, my office was just adjacent from the University of Ghana campus. So every evening after work, when I finish work at 5, I'll go to the university campus, I'll go to the library, and I'll be in the library till about 8, 9, sometimes 10 p.m. I mean, doing research on graduate schools and researching on international development, comparing international development to other programs or community development, rural. I did a lot of research, and then I started writing to schools. Well, to cut a long story short, I got admissions to a few schools. I mean, in the UK, which offered international development, Oxford, Cambridge, Liverpool, and a few other, Durham, a few other very excellent British schools. At the time, I wasn't very aware of the US schools as much, as particularly when it comes to international development, because the few I saw were more focused on politics and I wasn't interested in international relations, and that was not my interest. So I didn't apply to that many US schools, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, so I got a call from a professor from the University of Liverpool saying that I've been given an admission with scholarship. So they will be getting a letter to me in the post. I said, okay, that sounds great. So the rest is history. I ended up at the University of Liverpool, finished my MPhil and PhD. And then I did my postdoc in London. And then I got an email saying that my then the director, the chair of the International Development Program at Liverpool had retired, and they were interviewing for a replacement. So they were encouraging me to apply. So I applied for that position. I went for interviews. I was selected as a candidate, and then I went back to Liverpool to become a faculty and then the director of the International Development Program over there. Then after a few years in Liverpool, I thought, well, I've been here for too long. I saw a position at Trinity College in Dublin, which was very much what I was doing in Liverpool. So I applied. In Trinity, the program was focusing on masters and PhD, predominantly masters, I must say. So I said, well, I've had a lot of interaction with undergraduates. Let me try something else. So I went to Trinity. I got a job, and then I was appointed faculty and was involved in and eventually started managing the Masters in Development Practice program in Trinity. And that was a network of a master's degree program involving Columbia University here in the US. There is another university, one university in Costa Rica, Cartier in Costa Rica, another university in Colombia, the country Colombia, another university in Brazil. So it was a network of universities, one university in India, Delhi, Terry University, and these were a network of master's degree programs, and we had a wonderful experience over there. And then, of course, I moved to Brandeis, which you have read in terms of the story, how I came to Brandeis. I won't go into that. So that is how I became part of this whole enterprise of international development. And between my university and teaching activities, I've also been involved in the Development Studies Association of the UK. And that group was such a powerful group because they were directly also associated with the British Department for International Development, formerly the FID, and other international development agencies. So I got the privilege of getting to meet staff of some of these other USAID, Australian aid, Canadian aid, and all these Swedish aid and other leading JICA, GTZ, and all these wonderful development agencies. And then I was privileged to have the benefits of working as consultants on some projects, etc., as well as writing for proposals on research grants and things like that. So these sequence of activities became more and more interested in the field, got to know people working in the field, and then I realized that it is more valuable when development scholars or students are trained to address policy and practice challenges rather than working on more abstract and theoretical concepts as some other institutions sometimes do. So when I realized Brandeis had that focus, I was very excited about it. So that's one of the motivation for me inspiration to join Brandeis. And when I came to Brandeis, the first that struck was the diversity. Brandeis, and I mean, Hella is so diverse compared to where I used to be in Dublin. So I said, wow, this is a wonderful, diverse community. And so I decided to accept the offer to join the faculty in Hella. So that's, in a nutshell, what I can say at this point. Back to you, Fatimata.
Thank you so much. I was following through every single thing, and I think the students here can attest to their skills and the lessons that I think you learned from pursuing a career, and especially the importance of reaching out and stepping out of your comfort zone, And today we call it networking a lot, but we can see even from the early days how it has contributed to getting you to where you are. So I would like to invite students to ask questions. You can raise your hand, you can ask in person, or you can just write the question in the chat, and Professor Assan will be able to answer it. But one of my questions for you, I actually have one, and I think I can kick it off, is concerning your current position as a director of the SID program. What would you say your success looks like? What does success look like for you in that position right now?
Thank you very much, Fatimata. That's a very difficult question. That's a PhD level question, actually. So, as you know, I mean, you are in your second year. Andy is in her third year post experience of SID. Others have had experience of SID longer than yourself. And I mentioned that because we'll have the different individuals here or across the alumni will have different durations in terms of experiential interaction with SID. So when I became director, I observed a few things that I wanted to see changed or improved, not changed, but improved or made better. And so I'll start from there. As far as my job description is concerned, my role is to nurture the program, ensure that the program is doing well, interact with our faculty colleagues across the university and Hella to make sure that SID is also at the forefront of the school and all these wonderful things that leading administrators are supposed to do. But I wanted to do more. And one of the things I wanted to do was to ensure that our structures, as far as the curriculum, is more robust than it was when I took over. So I oversaw some curriculum changes and restructuring. I also took interest in some particular courses in terms of who could teach it and how they should be taught to make sure that it is a little more aligned to what current market demands. I will unfortunately not mention those courses, etc., because of privacy purposes. And then I also took on another area which I thought is very relevant to the market, which is your master's paper development. And I wasn't happy with some of the structure at the time. So I restructured with the wonderful assistance of Mary. So those of you, Mariama and the rest who are writing your master's paper, what you're doing is different from what used to be the outline, etc. And I wanted students to be able to both enjoy what they are doing, and at the same time, develop a very robust paper that is in line with what the market expects. And then when they go out for interviews, etc., what directors and interview panels would be expecting from them. So we did that, and I've heard a lot of feedback in terms of the value and then also the benefits. Another aspect is an engagement with alumni. I have previously helped to form the Branders Association of Ghana because I kept in touch with the Ghanaian students who graduated over the years. As a faculty, I'll keep in touch with as many of my students as possible, but we had a good cream in Ghana and they were looking at the possibility of how they could come together. So with the assistance of one of our currently a donor to Brandeis, we worked together and then established a Branders Association in Ghana. So we currently have an active and live association in Ghana. That's the only association outside Europe and Israel, I believe, because the rest of the associations are either here in Europe or in Israel. So we did that, and it's also going well. And the intention is that we could foster a network which will allow our graduates, in addition to what existed, to have different types of experiences when they leave Brandeis. So we've also worked on a few new collaborators. I also worked with Mary to develop a memorandum of understanding with one of the UN agencies on refugees so that we could have those of students who are in COEX and SID to be able to do some potential internships with them because we previously had the UNDP on our books. So, and then a few other new partners in the field of internships, practicum, etc. And in an attempt to also let them know that we exist and for them to know what we do. And through that process, they got our details, our curriculum, our program, and then they share this with other agencies which interact with them. So my goal has also been to broaden the presence of SID beyond the existing network that I inherited. So these are a few that I would say that I have done, and there are a few others in the pipeline I wouldn't want to talk about for now.
Sounds good. We see how I think your presence and your experience is adding value. Thank you for that. We have a few questions in the chat, and I'll just take a moment to share the first one with you. And this is from Andy. And the question is, we're seeing a lot of changes, for example, AI, that can affect our work and the types of opportunities available in the future. What tips do you have for staying current and relevant?
Wonderful. That is very true, Andy, and thank you for asking that question. One valuable avenue to stay current is endeavor to participate in various groups and network activities. I deliberately mentioned my involvement at the time that if it's currently still in existence, the Development Studies Association of the UK and Ireland, because that is where I was. I was based in the UK, and that is the group that was the foremost organization that was very directly involved in development studies, both in that as an academic group, but then also was engaged in policy and practice. And then just in my own experience, the DSA also had a sister group called the European Institute for Development Research, which was a group of European institutions that were involved in development studies. So I became involved in that as well. So between the DSA and then the European Institute, I got to meet and know several of the faculty who were involved in this field, right? And the value is that I was able to learn from them. And most of them were much higher in terms of ranking and more experience than I was. And so it became a learning opportunity for me. I'll email them and ask them questions. And I'll sit in meetings, which would normally, I wouldn't qualify to attend because it's in a room with all these wonderful people in that field. So I would say that as you graduate and also you get into the career path, try to be connected to the field in a way that you can be in a meeting with somebody that you normally meet in your regular, maybe workplace. So maybe a conference, a one-day conference, a workshop, etc., would facilitate your ability to network continuously because Hella gives you that. And like our wonderful careers department train us in that regard. And so keep that momentum. And then through that, I got to also develop new interests and an understanding of the field and policies and policy relevance of the field. So you begin to develop that, continue that hunger. Because when you graduate and you start working, as you know, you get overwhelmed with work, but then you don't get much in terms of further education because work will extract what you already know, and then sometimes you are not further educated. So that system of networking gave me the ability to continue my education of the field beyond the classroom. And I would say that for me has been a wonderful gift, and I continue to stay in touch with conferences, etc., up to date. And I will say that would be my initial recommendation because oftentimes that is free in terms of you do that at your leisure and sometimes not much at the cost of your time at work, except if you have to ask permission to maybe attend a conference. And these days, taking advantage of online events means that you can attend an event without being physically present as well. So those are things that you can do. As far as artificial intelligence is concerned, we all know that several of the artificial intelligence systems are still not polished yet. The experts know that. So I'm not particularly worried about how AI might threaten our field in that regard, because development can take advantage of AI, but I don't think AI can substitute development policy officials because artificial intelligence cannot really make policies. We know that policy is a very human-centered thing. So I wouldn't worry as much, I'm saying for today, but I would rather say that continue to develop yourself to the extent that you can become in charge of the AI systems in your institution, and then you can utilize the system to your advantage. If what I'm saying makes sense, because somebody must police the AI and also utilize the output of the AI to inform your department, your organization, or what your colleagues and your teams do. And you can be that person if your colleagues or your staff or your boss get to know that you are on top of things, you understand what is going on in the field.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Such a relevant question, Andy, and I think your answer as well, Professor Assan, is very great. We will move on to the next one, which is from Mariama, and the question is, my question is, how do you advise we approach networking to achieve our career objectives in the academic or in the international development sector? So this one is about networking.
Yeah, so first of all, interact with our wonderful staff at the careers department. Please do that and then ask them similar questions as you just asked me, because they are excellent in what they do and they are experts with regards to how they coach students in this particular field. So that's my first advice. Don't go through the week or a month without stopping by the career services department and then say hi and then ask a question or make an appointment to talk about maybe an area of interest. Because we have wonderful experts in our building, but they can only be of help to you when you approach them and you share your unique aspect, because we are such a diverse group. Every one of you, I will say, every one of you in Hella has a unique interest, and that is exciting and wonderful. I've never met any cohort of students where 2 or 3 students are eager to do the same thing. Every time is very different. And so the same way our career service staff will be able to assist you in that respect. That's number one. When I was in higher education and of course tertiary education, my apologies, especially in the UK, we didn't have such an excellent unit within the school. Our career service was located far away in the students' union, and all they did was helping putting some flyers up, and it was not particularly even relevant to my interest because they were geared towards British students and how British students can go and do volunteering work abroad. When you go there as an international student, they say, oh, sorry, this is for UK student. And I said, no, I'm not a UK student. They say, oh, sorry, we can't help you. And then that was it. And so, and then maybe campus jobs, and that was it. So here we have a more sophisticated department, which is wonderful in that respect. So, and I'm personally very pleased. And so please, let's use that. Second, I want you to also think through which organizations, not for jobs, but which organizations are doing some of the things that you are interested in. And organizations sometimes, surprisingly, will be interested in talking to somebody who is not looking for a job and is interested in what they do. That's often the case, but we don't realize that. Email somebody in an organization here in Boston, or it could be in Australia, it could be in the UK, Japan, India, and then say, well, I'm really excited about what you guys do, and I want to talk to you about it because I'm trying to do something similar. I want to tap, if you have a network in Africa or network in Asia, I want to know and you get somebody who will respond to you. I did that a few times and I got responses. Some of the people I'm still in touch with up to today. Another thing is, as I mentioned, sometimes workshops. Agencies will organize events, workshops, and then register for them. Even if you can attend, you register for them, they will send you a recording or you get access to the video, which you can watch, right? And through that, you make friends. For example, our wonderful colleague, Professor Jenny Gold, who teaches the monitoring evaluation course in SID. I got to meet her through a World Bank workshop. Okay. I got to meet through her, and at the moment we connected and we started talking, it's as if we've known each other for years because she said, whoa, Ghana is my favorite country within the bank. My former director, my first director who I worked with directly was from Ghana, and he was amazing. I said, oh, wow, that's fantastic. What's the name? I said, I think I know this person. So suddenly we're just connected, if you see I mean, Mariama. And I just contacted her because I said, wow, this is a wonderful workshop. This is incredible. When can I get a copy of the report? I just asked that question. And then she responded, and her colleague also responded. And so suddenly we started interacting. And I said, hey, hang on a second. We need somebody to teach this area of our curriculum. Are you by any chance interested or can recommend somebody who might be interested? And then the conversation continued from there. So some of you say, oh, I have no business. Oh, maybe World Bank, they will not respond. That was not the case, if you understand what I'm saying. So connect with organizations and then do that whilst you are in school. Because when you graduate, you become busier than you are now. You will not have much time. Do that now, and then tell them who you are. And you'll be surprised. Often they will.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I will move on to the next question from Ashley. And the question reads, HELA's SID program represents such a diverse community of scholars. How do you approach managing and directing international groups with varying background experiences? And the second part is, how do you suggest students approach finding companies that do this well away from their country, from their home country?
Hello, Ashley. I'm not sure if we have met. You have a resemblance with our former students, Bukola. So when I said, is that BB? I was looking, I said, no, that's Ashley. This is not. So I was just debating with myself. So glad that you asked your question. I'm not sure if I understand your question, very clearly. But please clarify if I get it wrong, because it's kind of a packed question. Ask, how do you manage international? Can you repeat that part? Because I was trying to understand it carefully so that I can respond accordingly.
I can say it out loud. It's kind of two-part of inside of HELA, how do you manage international teams? And then when you're looking for a company, post-graduation, how do you evaluate if they're going to be capable of like managing an international team well, like in the hiring process in order to determine if you want to work for a company or not?
Okay, thank you very much, Ashley. May I ask which program you are affiliated with in HELA? Yes.
SID and MBA.
Okay, wonderful. Great. So good to thanks for your clarification, and thanks for the further detail. It's not you are not. It's not. It's you are we have an Ashley Robinson, right? Ashley, oh my goodness. Ashley Robinson, goodness me. Okay, my apologies for not recognizing you earlier. My sincere, I've not seen you in a very long time. Actually, we have to catch up. Okay, please, let's meet up. I've been looking for you, actually. I was looking for you to serve as a TA, but I couldn't find you, so I had to find somebody else. So actually, let's catch up. But actually, you asked a very important question. First of all, in terms of managing groups, international groups whilst you are here. And that is part of some of the things that I have done and I continue to do. Currently, I'm in touch with some groups in Europe, and we are collaborating on a particular project, and I have to do my part of the job. They are 6 hours ahead of me. So sometimes I wake up, or sometimes I stay up and wait for them to wake up before I go to bed. So that's one thing. Also, I'm also involved in an organization in Australia. And so don't ask me about Australians. The Australians are almost a day ahead of me. So, for example, we have a board meeting coming up next month. And that's the board meeting. The doodle then landed such a way that the meeting will have to be at 5 a.m., 5 a.m. Eastern time, which means that I'll have to be up at least by 4 or 4:30 to be able to join the board meeting at 5 a.m. In that the previous one was 4 a.m. So this time they've been a bit considerate. So yeah, I'm saying this because international time zones matter incredibly when it comes to internationalization of a management and leadership role. And fortunately, Zoom again makes a big difference because I do a lot of Zooming and I've minimized my travel this time. COVID and post-COVID, I've minimized my traveling because of the logistics that sometimes is involved, and then do a lot of Zoom sessions, which they also appreciate. My European colleagues, I meet them a lot either in the afternoons, which is early evenings, their time before they have their dinner. So I'm not interacting with their dinner time. So afternoons and then early it's afternoons here, which is evening there. We tend to have a lot of our meetings or dawn here and then morning there. Then we have a network in India. Our Indian friends are sometimes either 9 hours or 10 hours ahead of us. And so we end up having to do a lot of our meetings over the weekend because we do our Sunday nights evening, because Sunday night is Monday morning over in India. So I spend some of my Sunday nights doing holding meetings with them in that regard, because for some reason, many times they will prefer to be in the office because of internet and other bandwidth issues. They will prefer to use their institutional networks for important meetings rather than maybe the ones they have at home. So just for the logistics and then the partnership aspect, I take these things into consideration because regularity as far as networking and coordination is important, especially if you are leading a team or a unit. And then I'm also quite flexible when it comes to international networking. Flexibility is really key because people will deal with you well when they think you are a flexible person. And so I try to make myself as flexible as possible. And then we stick to the same mandates and demands. But when they feel like there's some element of flexibility, they are not afraid to be part of it in terms of the setting. And also they can say yes and not feel like, oh, they'll be banned and held, their feet will not be held to the fire. They feel like, oh, there's some flexibility. If I can't make it or I can't meet this or do that, I mean, Joseph is understanding. He will understand. So that makes the teamwork also quite fluid, because even those who feel like, oh, they are lagging or they are tardy will apologize and quickly jump onto the wagon because they feel like, oh gosh, I don't want to take advantage of this guy's flexibility or, understanding nature. And then, of course, being a supportive as possible is important, because sometimes people will pass things that they have to do to you. Sometimes I pass it back to them, but in a very nice way. But they know that you are a very supportive person. If they ask you to help with that or that, you'll do it, or you'll find a way to have that done. And then suddenly they will end up doing even what you are supposed to do for you, because they know you've done something for them in the past. So they will try to exchange. So that's how I have managed, because first when I joined Brandeis, I was still a member of the DSA council. So I was involved in the conference arrangement and a few other things. I still have partners in Europe I'm in touch with. So that in terms of that tandem, and I've been very, thankfully successful in maintaining and organizing this. And occasionally I make the effort to meet them in person. In fact, with regards to your second question, I'll do that very quickly. You were talking about looking for the right fit, if I'm not mistaken, for organizations. And I know we tend to have coffee these days. There's a lot of coffee going around. I'm not a coffee person, so I'll say I like to have hot chocolate with you. And then they will laugh because, oh, hot chocolate is supposed to be for the evening. I said, well, I grew up in Ghana. We drank coffee we drank hot chocolate in the morning. Because we are a cocoa capital. We don't do coffee as much. Coffee is for the old people. Chocolate is for the young people. So we drank coffee. So, but that alone is a nice way to start. And then they laugh about it, and then we get to chat. But having informal coffee sessions with people chocolates, in my case, to just talk about what they do and learn a bit more about them is great. And don't tell them, I want you to tell me what you do. People don't like that question. Because I know this is common for people to, when I get that question from undergrads and from prospective students, I smile, because if I say I want to tell you everything that I do, I don't have the time to do that. So they will tell you I don't have the time. But you tell them that I've observed that you guys are into this area and I want to learn a bit more about it. I'm very eager and very interested in learning a bit more about this field. They don't want to promise you a job, so you don't want to ask them about job and openings, etc. Even that was your intention. When I went to the Hunger Project many years ago, I told the director that, wow, I saw you guys on the news. I really appreciated that, because for a long time I've been looking for an organization that does this type of work. And are you looking for, what are you guys looking for? I'm very happy to be involved in what you do, right? Including a job, if you have a job. Because I didn't know what staffing they had and whether they were hiring or etc. And the director looked at me and then he smiled and said, wow, okay. This is the first time somebody asked me a question about volunteering and all that, that kind of thing. So you ask them, tell them what you are interested in and whether they can share a bit more with you about their initiatives and areas that they are planning to maybe develop. And then in that case, it becomes a conversation, not they being put on the spot, because every organization has confidential aspect that they don't want to share with a stranger. Okay, and sometimes they also have ethical policies that they are not even allowed to talk to strangers. So if you position your question in a way that makes a conversation possible, it becomes easier for that person, however high they are, to talk to you. For example, I'll talk about Professor Gold in the World Bank. The work they do is very classified, but the way I presented my question made her want to talk to me. And then when we had the conversation, we have so much in common, and that everything became a natural trajectory from there. So actually, we can talk more about these wonderful questions. Let's find time to catch up, and then we can have a chat.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ashley, for the great question, and Professor for answering that. We have about 8 minutes, so we'll try to see if we can cover the 2 pending questions we have. And this one says, most US job applications, especially in the peace building sector, ask if you would ever need a work visa at any point in your life, which is true post OPT, and often you never hear back after that. How do you position yourself with the skills you bring from our own countries when a checkbox can disqualify us? Should we prioritize non-US market?
Right, thank you. Yeah, that's a very important question, and also a difficult hurdle, unfortunately. I would also want to emphasize that there are organizations that would hire you with what you currently have. I want to make sure that is also stated. Yes, several, you may submit 200 applications and 150 of them will say you don't have a current working visa, so bye-bye. And unfortunately, many of these organizations do that for legal reasons because they've been instructed that we don't have the budget to hire someone and then take them through the visa process. Some organizations will also have, in the terms of the online application, a section where maybe you can put an information. So you can put in your letter that I'm currently on this type of visa, and I'm in the process of upgrading my visa maybe to a working visa by myself. That makes a difference because oftentimes that box is there because they don't want to bear the burden of financially funding your visa. It's not because you are an illegal person, or if you are legally resident in the country as far as OPT is concerned, for example. But many people, for example, also don't even know what OPT is, depending on which institution they went to. If they went to a predominantly home-based institution, they haven't interacted with an international student to hear that there's something called OPT. So the OPT itself is a new concept to them. And they would, of course, they can't come and tell you that. So mention that I'm on this, in the application letter, put it there boldly. I'm on this visa, and I'm currently working towards upgrading my visa from a student-based work experience visa to a formal visa. And there's a pathway to do that as well within the US immigration system, which you can do. You can start yourself or have an attorney to help with you in that regard. And when some organizations read that, they say, oh, okay, fine. Then we don't have to pay for his or her or their visa. Okay, we'll probably like to talk to you. So that is the thing, because many institutions and organizations don't have the budget to hire a lawyer or an attorney and go through that whole process. That's one. And then two, they don't know you. They don't know whether they will encounter some security or some hurdle over the course of the process. So they're also a bit cautious. But if you are doing it yourself, then that burden is not on them. And so I want to emphasize that for me, in my experience as an international person and previous international student, I noticed that has been an important deciding factor, which sometimes students are not very often clear as to how to navigate it. Or of course, when you check that box, make sure you add a note for the institution or the recruiter to know what you are doing with regards to your current working status. And it makes a difference. At least I've advised some students in this regard, and they've managed to get over that hurdle. So hopefully that can be helpful to whoever asked that question as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that is a great answer. So we are almost out of time. Professor, if there is anything else you would like to share before we take the next 2 minutes to just thank everyone for joining the session today. Personally, I've learned a lot, especially as an international student and as somebody coming from West Africa as well, Professor. So thank you for that. If you would like to say anything, I can give you a moment to say that, and then we will wrap up.
Oh, thank you. I just want to say that within HELA, we do amazing things, I will say, especially within our curriculum, irrespective of the program you are involved in. So be proud of that and be confident of that. You get an amazing training. I will have to tell you that. You get an excellent training in your current experiences. And then so to have that confidence as you move along, and then use that as the basis for your next step. And whatever career position you are in, like our amazing Andy, know that that's just the foot in the door. There's more ahead. There's more exciting stuff ahead. So be looking forward to be marching towards that. Don't let anybody stop you or underestimate you or think that you are not able because you just joined a team or you are young or you are new. No. You know so much more than many of the professionals. I invite people to my classes, and sometimes they are amazed. So wow, we didn't learn this when we were in grad school, etc. I've got many speakers who say that. So you guys get insight and knowledge that is not common. So have that as part of your own confidence building, and then you'll be very successful as you move forward. And we are here to support as always. So never hesitate to get in touch if you need to. And of course, thank you, Fatumata and Jasmine and the rest of your team for setting this up, as I said earlier, and having me on the series. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It has been a wonderful, wonderful session. And thank you for also referring students to the HELA Career Office. Since I've started working there, you know, there are opportunities and resources I'm coming through, and I'm like, oh my God, these are very useful for graduate students. So I'm hoping students will take good use of those opportunities and resources. I want to thank some of the students who are making suggestions through the chat box as well, talking about networking and how to engage the international community. And I wanted to take this quick opportunity to also say that we are planning some amazing programs for the fall. We have the networking event that's coming up on October 27 from the Career Office, and we also have an international alumni panel that we are organizing. So look out for these opportunities. We will try to promote them so you can have great access. And we are looking forward to a wonderful fall. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Nice to see you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.